Great ground guarantees growing gourmet garden greens galore. This field was in beans and cucumbers and squash and corn all spring and summer long, and then by mid-August that was history. We bush hogged it, chisel plowed it, and harrowed it, and then we got it ready for planting the kale and the collards. These are the greens that really make the fall a garden. Kale and collards collect calcium. They're very good for you because of that calcium, but we have to put it on the ground first in the form of lime or wood ashes. For lime, we spread about a ton to the acre every other year, which amounts to 5 pounds per 100 square feet, or a 50-pound bag for a spot 10 feet wide by 100 feet long, which is 1,000 square feet. This 1,000 square foot space of garden needs about 1.5 yards of high quality compost along with the lime, but I would only put about 10 pounds of wood ashes on it. Kale is the queen of the greens. It has 3 times the amount of vitamin C as an orange, and it has a protein content of 4.5%, packed with fiber, and it's super nutritious. Add to this kale's winter hardiness, and you can see why kale is gaining popularity. We harvest it from September all through the winter up until April, when it sends up a little shoot, and that shoot makes a flower bud, about the size of $0.50, that looks just like a broccoli. They're delicious. We call them broccolis. After they've flowered, they go to seed, and then the little seed pods are dried, and we thresh out the little black seeds that we plant again the next fall. Kale and collards were grown back in the Roman times, and the Latin word for them was cole. These plants are the ancestors of cauliflower and broccoli and all of the other plants that we grow in that cabbage family. But these remain the most nutritious because they're most like the way they were back then. These collards are very similar, but they're a little bit more heat tolerant, so they could grow in a little hotter weather, but they're maybe not as winter tolerant as the kale. This variety is Toscano, a Lacinato type of kale from Italy. It's an Italian heirloom, also known as dinosaur kale. It has these wavy, sort of rough leaves. There are other varieties of kale that have very curly leaves, like Vates and Siberian kale and Scotch curled. We actually like the flat leaf kales better. They seem to be a little hardier, and maybe I like them because they're easier to wash in case there's a bug or something on them. This flat leaf kale, we've been saving the seed for 35 years. We make a shallow furrow in the garden sometime around the middle of August. And then I just sprinkled the kale seed right in that row. Step on it a little bit to firm it into the ground, and kick a little bit of soil on top. It will sprout up in about a week, and it comes up thickly. Now you can thin them out to 6 or 8 inches apart, but we just let it grow up thickly, and then we cut them, about 8 inches off the ground, and the leaves come back, and it's a cut and come again crop. I've found that frost seems to improve the flavor of the fall kale. But other things that help kale to have a sweet flavor are having that calcium in the ground and also having no nitrates. So as a plant grows, it needs nitrogen, and if it gets nitrogen in the form of a nitrate, then it has to use some of its energy to to turn it back into nitrogen so that it can use it. And this energy in a plant comes in the form of sugar. So if we have amino acid nitrogen from old compost that's been worked into the ground since last spring, then the plants taste sweeter because they haven't had to use up that sugar. Another advantage to having sugar in the plants is that sugar is not digestible to leaf-eating insects. So the leaves don't have bug holes. We had put about 40 tons of biodynamic compost over this acre in the spring when we grew the cucumber, squash, and beans. But I didn't add any more before I planted the fall garden. By cultivating the beans, squash, and cucumbers, I kind of turned that microbial balance from a fungal bacterial ratio that was even more on the bacterial side, which is what the fall greens really like. For the small investment in a little bit of seed and a small amount of work, kale and collards are a great addition to the fall garden, which your garden would just grow up in weeds anyway. They're highly nutritious, easy to grow. You can eat them all winter long. It's great garden soil that makes it all possible.
For inspiring garden tours, growing tips, and garden projects, visit our website at volunteergardener.org or on YouTube at the Volunteer Gardener channel, and like us on Facebook.